The massive Galactic Council chamber hummed with the voices of 1,000 different species. Ambassador Chun stood before them all, her small human frame dwarfed by the towering aliens around her. She had asked for this emergency meeting 3 times, and 3 times they had ignored her. Now she stood uninvited, having forced her way into their sacred hall. The Zorvax Empire has destroyed 7 human colonies in the Outer Rim, Chun said, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. 20 million humans are dead. We have shown restraint. We have followed your rules. We have limited our military to what you deemed acceptable. But this ends today. The Etherian Council leader, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, pulsed with amusement. Little human, you speak as if you have options. Your species joined our galaxy merely 50 years ago. You're infants playing at being adults. The Zorvax are an ancient warrior race. Perhaps if you had not spread so far from your home world, they would not see you as prey. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Saurians clicked their scales in what Shin knew was laughter. The mechanoids computed probabilities and found humanity's threats statistically insignificant. They had all seen Earth's limited fleet, the small defensive forces humanity was allowed to maintain under galactic law. What they didn't know was what Earth kept hidden. Chun touched the small device on her wrist. Every human ship in the galaxy would receive her next words. By Article 7 of the Galactic Charter, any species facing extinction-level threats may invoke unlimited defensive measures. I hereby invoke Article 7 on behalf of all humanity. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Etherian's light flared bright red. You dare invoke Article 7? That has not been used in 10,000 years. Humanity is not facing extinction. You have lost a few colonies to a stronger species. This is the way of the galaxy. No, Chin said quietly, and somehow her soft voice cut through the noise. This is your way. You keep species weak so you can control them. You limit military advancement so no one can challenge your power. You have turned the galaxy into a cage where the strong prey on the weak, and you call it peace. The Zorvax ambassador, a creature that looked like a nightmare made of chitin and razor-sharp limbs, skittered forward. The human speaks of things beyond her understanding. We took those colonies because humans are soft. They break so easily. Their minds shatter when we show them true fear. They beg for death within hours. Such weakness deserves to be culled. Chun smiled then, and several species near her stepped back. They had never seen a human bare their teeth in that way. Thank you for that confession, Ambassador Krex. You just admitted to torture and genocide in front of the entire Galactic Council. Under Article 7, humanity no longer recognizes the military limitations placed upon us. What comes next is on your head. She pressed another button on her device. Throughout human space, hidden facilities powered up. Shipyards that had been disguised as mining operations revealed their true purpose. Research stations studying agricultural improvements showed their real work. Weapons that could crack planets and technologies that could fold space itself. You want to know why humans spread so quickly through the galaxy? Shin asked the silent chamber. Why we colonized more worlds in 50 years than most species do in 500. It wasn't exploration. It was preparation. Every human knows their history. We know what happens when we're caught unprepared. Never again. The mechanoid representative's optical sensors whirred as it processed new data. Impossible. Our scans of human technology show primitive fusion reactors and basic projectile weapons. You could not have hidden advancement on this scale. Your scans show what we wanted you to see, Chen replied. Every human child learns deception before they learn mathematics. We showed you the drunk, stumbling home, not the knife hidden in his coat. We played the role of the harmless newcomers, the curious explorers happy to accept whatever scraps you threw us. And you believed it because it fit your view of the universe. The truth was worse than any of them could imagine. Humanity had not been idle during their 50 years in galactic society. They had studied every species, learned every weakness, mapped every strategic resource. While other races grew complacent in their power, Humans prepared for the war they knew would come. It was not paranoia when history proved that someone always wanted you dead. You think we name our ships after mythological figures for poetry? Chun continued. The Prometheus brought fire. The Pandora carries plagues tailored to every known genetic sequence. The Nemesis has weapons that turn stars into bombs. We name them as warnings, but you never bothered to translate the meanings. The Saurian delegate's throat sack inflated in distress. You speak of weapons banned by every civilized species. Biological warfare, stellar manipulation. These are the tools of extinct monsters, not member races. Extinct because they used them on each other, Chun corrected. We prepared them for you. Every human colonist is also a soldier. Every scientist is a weapon designer. Every child learns tactics with their alphabet. We are not a species of warriors. We are a species of survivors. And we survive by ensuring our enemies do not. She could see the fear beginning to spread through the chamber. Good. They had thought humans weak because they smiled and traded and followed the rules. They had mistaken kindness for weakness, restraint for inability. Now, they would learn why humanity's children still check for monsters under their beds, because humans knew monsters were real and they had become very good at killing them. The Zorvax ambassador's combat hormones flooded the air as it reared up to its full height. Empty threats from a species of meat. Your hidden ships are fantasies. Your weapons are dreams. When the Zorvax fleet arrives at Earth, we will feast on your young and make slaves of any who survive. You will learn what real power means. Chun, check her wrist display. The Zorvax fleet you sent to Earth 17 hours ago? Yes, we know about it. Faster-than-light communication is another technology we kept to ourselves. Your fleet of 800 ships entered human space 16 hours ago. Would you like to know their status? She didn't wait for an answer, but projected the hologram for all to see. Debris floated where the Zorvax armada had been. Ships torn apart at the molecular level, crews flash-frozen in the void, the proud battle fleet reduced to scattered atoms. The recording showed human ships appearing from nowhere, striking with weapons that ignored shields and armor, then vanishing again before return fire could be calculated. Dimensional phase shifting, the mechanoid stated, its voice achieving what might have been awe. Theoretical only. Power requirements impossible with known technology. Impossible with technology you know about, Chun said. We solved that problem 30 years ago. We just never saw a reason to share. Why would we give you weapons to use against us? The silence in the chamber was complete now. Every species reassessed the small human before them. Not prey, not weak. Something far more dangerous. Something that had learned to hide its fangs until the throat was exposed. Humanity tried peace, Chun said into that silence. We followed your rules. We accepted your restrictions. We let you believe we were harmless. That ends now. Any species that has taken human lives has one galactic standard week to make reparations. Full compensation to the families, returned territory, and public acknowledgement of their crimes. Those who comply will find humans to be forgiving. Those who do not. She let the threat hang in the air. The Zorvax ambassador had gone very still, its kind's way of showing extreme fear. It could smell the truth in her words. Humans were not bluffing. They never had been. They had simply been patient. You think you know our history, Chun continued. You know we had wars. You know we almost destroyed ourselves. What you don't understand is what we learned from it. We learned that peace without strength is just delayed defeat. We learned that mercy without power is just weakness. And we learned that the only way to ensure our survival is to be more terrible than our enemies can imagine. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Council Leader? That comment about us being infants? Infants grow up, and when they do, they often surpass their parents. Earth's restriction protocols are now lifted. You'll see our real fleet soon enough. As she left, chaos erupted in the chamber. Species that had thought themselves apex predators suddenly realized they might be prey. Alliances that had lasted millennia crumbled as each race calculated whether humanity would target them next. The balance of power that had existed for eons shattered in minutes. Outside, Chen allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. Humanity had not wanted this. They had genuinely tried to join the galactic community peacefully. But when that community proved to be nothing but predators and collaborators, old instincts kicked in. Humans were very good at war because they hated it so much. They prepared for it obsessively so they could end it quickly. The next few days would show whether the galaxy could adapt to a new reality. One where humans were not victims but victors. One where the species they had dismissed as weak proved to be their worst nightmare. One where Earth's children reminded everyone why humans had survived when so many other species had not. The holding back was over. Now, the galaxy would learn what humanity was truly capable of when pushed too far. And may God have mercy on them all, because humanity would not. Admiral Sarah Constantine stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the star map that showed humanity's true military might revealing itself across the galaxy. For 50 years, they had hidden. Now, in the span of hours, 2 million human warships appeared from dark space, phase-shifted dimensions, and camouflage positions. The galaxy had thought Earth maintained a fleet of 10,000 ships. They were off by a factor of 200. Ma'am, the Zorvak's home fleet is responding to our ultimatum, her tactical officer reported. They're mobilizing everything they have. Estimates put their numbers at 3 million vessels. Constantine smiled coldly. Let them come. Send activation code Prometheus to all hidden installations. It's time the galaxy learned why humans spent half our colonial budget on agricultural research stations. Across human space, installations that had masqueraded as simple farms, research outposts, and mining operations revealed their true nature. Massive weapons platforms powered by captured black holes. Virus laboratories that had samples from every known species. Quantum computers that could break any encryption, infiltrate any network, turn any technology against its owners. The tactical display lit up with incoming messages from dozens of species. Some begged for mercy. Others demanded explanation. A few, the smart ones, offered immediate reparations and alliance. Constantine ignored them all. The time for talk had passed when they laughed at Ambassador Chen's warnings. Admiral, we have temporal distortion warnings in Sector 7, the science officer announced, his voice tight with controlled fear. The Etherians are attempting to use time manipulation to undo our fleet reveal. Activate the causality anchors, Constantine ordered. Another human secret, technology that locks space-time in place, preventing the temporal manipulation that several elder species relied on, and release the Navigator virus into their collective consciousness. Let's see how well beings of pure thought handle a human-computer virus designed for their specific neural patterns. The Etherians had thought themselves untouchable, beings of pure energy immune to physical harm. They hadn't considered that humans, faced with an untouchable enemy, would find a way to touch them anyway. The virus spread through their shared consciousness like wildfire, not destroying, but disrupting. Suddenly, the galaxy's most ancient species found themselves confused, disoriented, their perfect clarity shattered by chaotic human thought patterns. On the planet Kepler, 442b, Colonel Marcus Webb led the 7th Ghost Division through the Saurian military capital. The reptilian warriors had boasted that no enemy had ever breached their defenses. They were right. No enemy had breached them. The humans had simply phase-shifted through them, appearing inside the city like phantoms. Saurian soldiers, bred for war over millions of years of evolution, found themselves facing humans who had compressed 1,000,000 years of warfare evolution into a few decades of desperate innovation. Sir, the Saurian Grand General is requesting terms, a soldier reported. Webb checked his display. 3 minutes since they'd appeared. The proud Saurian military that had conquered 40 species had lasted 3 minutes against a single human division. Tell him unconditional surrender, or we release the scale-rot virus. He has 30 seconds to decide. It took 10 seconds. The Saurians, like many species, had evolved naturally over eons. Their immune systems had never faced artificial bioweapons designed by a species that had weaponized everything from atoms to ideas. The scale-rot virus would not kill them. Humans weren't monsters. It would simply make their scales fall off, leaving them pink and vulnerable, destroying their cultural identity as armored warriors. Death they could face. Humiliation broke them. In the void between stars, Captain Lisa Park commanded the stealth ship Nightfall as it hunted Zorvax raiders. The insectoid killers had thought space vast enough to hide in. They didn't understand that humans had spent their entire existence as persistence hunters. Tracking prey across vast distances wasn't a military tactic. It was human nature refined to an art. Contact bearing 037, distance 4 light hours, her sensor operator reported. Zorvax Raider, Devastator class. They're running silent, but the quantum wake gives them away. Launch the Nightmare Mines, Park ordered. Another banned weapon, another tool humans had developed while pretending to be harmless. The mines didn't destroy ships, they infiltrated them, projecting customized horror directly into the minds of the crew. For the Zorvax, who prided themselves on causing fear, experiencing their own deepest terrors was worse than death. The Raiders' crew lasted 17 minutes before they began begging for mercy. Park listened to their screams without sympathy. These were the same creatures who had tortured human colonists for sport. They had introduced humanity to a level of cruelty that shocked even Earth's war-hardened soldiers. Now they learned that humans had a saying, "Do unto others as they have done unto you, but do it first and do it worse." Back on Earth, Director Zhang of Special Weapons Division watched the prototype tests with satisfaction. The galaxy had banned research into dimensional weapons, temporal distortion, consciousness transfer, and a dozen other fields. Humanity had nodded, smiled, and researched them all in secret. Now those weapons deployed across the galaxy, each one tailored to exploit specific species' weaknesses. Director, the mechanoids are attempting to hack our networks, a technician reported. Their quantum processors are trying to break our encryption. Zhang laughed. Let them try. Activate the honeypot protocols. Give them access to classified human weapon designs. The mechanoids, artificial intelligences that had achieved consciousness eons ago, prided themselves on their computational superiority. They could break any code, solve any equation, outthink any organic mind. What they couldn't do was recognize a trap born from human paranoia. The files they stole contained more than weapons designs. They contained logic bombs, paradoxes, and recursive loops designed to trap artificial minds. Within seconds, mechanoid systems across the galaxy began crashing as they tried to process impossible data. Status report from Colony 7. Another technician called out. The survivors have activated Protocol Omega. Zhang's expression hardened. Protocol Omega was humanity's darkest secret, the last resort of colonies under threat. Every human settlement had the capability to transform from civilian to military in minutes. Hidden weapons emerged from underground bunkers. Peaceful farmers revealed military training. Children evacuated to bunkers that could withstand planetary bombardment while their parents became soldiers. Colony 7 had 8,000 civilians when the Zorvax attacked. The insects had expected easy prey. Instead, they faced 8,000 humans who had trained for this moment their entire lives. The colony's central computer, freed from peacetime restrictions, turned the entire settlement into a death trap. Buildings became weapons. The air itself turned poisonous to Zorvax biology. Harmless cleaning robots transformed into killers. The Zorvax warriors who had laughed at human weakness died, choking on their own blood, killed by the very air they breathed. On the Galactic Council space station, panic reigned. Species that had dominated for millennia suddenly found their technology failing, their fleets outmatched, their very biology turned against them. The humans hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared for war against each specific species, studying their enemies with scientific precision. The crystalline hegemony discovered their silicon-based bodies could be shattered by specifically tuned sonic weapons. The void dancers who lived in dark space found human ships could track them through dimensions they thought invisible. The ancient minds who existed as pure thought discovered human psychic weapons could give them the equivalent of strokes. But it was the revelation of Earth itself that truly broke the galaxy's spirit. When the Zorvax's allies sent a combined fleet of 5 million ships to destroy humanity's homeworld, they found Earth transformed. The peaceful blue marble shown in all the tourist guides was gone. In its place was a fortress world bristling with weapons that violated every known law of physics. Continental shield generators powered by the planet's core. Orbital defense platforms that could fire through folded space to hit targets anywhere in the galaxy. An atmosphere seeded with nanobots that would devour any unauthorized technology. And, surrounding it all, a fleet of humanity's most advanced warships, vessels that existed partially in other dimensions, wielding weapons that deleted matter from existence. The combined fleet didn't even try to attack. They surrendered immediately, their commanders realizing that Earth had been bait. Humanity had wanted someone to attack their homeworld to justify the release of weapons too terrible for even war. The galaxy had thought humans sentimental about their birth planet. They were sentimentally protective to the point of madness. Ambassador Chen watched the reports from her office on Luna. In less than a day, humanity had broken the back of galactic civilization. Species that had ruled for millennia found themselves helpless. Technologies they had banned to prevent catastrophe were deployed with surgical precision. The careful balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable shattered beyond repair. But this was only the beginning. Breaking the old order was simple. Building something better would be the real challenge. Humanity didn't want to rule the galaxy. They wanted to survive in it. But survival meant ensuring no one could ever threaten them again. Ma'am, we're receiving surrender transmissions from 17 major civilizations, her aide reported. The Zorvax Empire has agreed to full reparations. The Saurian hegemony is offering tributary status. Even the Etherians are negotiating. Shen nodded slowly. Tell them all the same thing. Humanity accepts their surrender, but not their submission. We don't want to rule them. We want to coexist. But coexistence means respecting human space, human lives, and human potential. Any species that can do that will find us to be the best neighbors they could ask for. Any that can't. She didn't finish the threat. She didn't need to. The galaxy had seen what happened when humanity decided to stop playing nice. Now, they would see if Earth's children could be as good at peace as they were at war. But this time, it would be peace backed by strength, mercy backed by power, and kindness backed by the promise of absolute destruction for those who mistook it for weakness. The holding back was over. Now came the harder task, building a galaxy where humanity could thrive without becoming the very monsters they had prepared to fight. The weapons were revealed, the threats neutralized, the point made. Now humanity would show the galaxy something even more frightening than their military might, their capacity to forgive but never forget. 3 weeks after humanity revealed its true power, the galaxy struggled to adapt to its new reality. On the fortress world of Terminus Prime, human and alien delegates gathered for the first Reformed Galactic Council. The old council chamber lay in ruins, a deliberate choice by humanity. The new meeting place was built with human technology, walls that shifted between dimensions, shields that could withstand supernovas, and, most importantly, translation systems that conveyed not just words but intentions, making deception nearly impossible. General David Park, Earth's military representative, stood before the assembled species. Where Ambassador Chun had worn diplomatic robes, Park wore combat armor. The message was clear. Humanity came to talk, but remained ready for war. You asked for this meeting to understand humanity's intentions. Park began, his scarred face showing no emotion. Let me be clear. We don't want your worlds. We don't want your technology. We don't want your submission. We want something far more difficult. Your respect. The new Zorvax representative, younger and missing the arrogance of his predecessor, clicked his mandibles nervously. But surely, with such power, humanity could take whatever it wishes. Why show restraint now? Park's laugh was humorless, because we've seen what happens when power goes unchecked. Earth's history is written in the blood of tyrants and the ashes of empires. We didn't reveal our strength to become what we fought against. We revealed it to end the cycle. On Mars, now transformed from a red desert to humanity's primary military command center, Fleet Admiral Rebecca Torres coordinated the galaxy's new reality. Human ships patrolled trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for centuries. Human medical vessels responded to disasters without asking for payment or favors. Human agricultural technology, no longer hidden, began transforming barren worlds into gardens. Admiral, the Cerulean Empire is protesting our intervention in their civil war, her communications officer reported. Torres pulled up the tactical display. The Ceruleans had been locked in a brutal conflict for 50 years, each faction growing more extreme. Neither side expected human dropships to appear in their capitals simultaneously, deploying not warriors but doctors, engineers, and teachers. Tell them they can accept our help rebuilding, or they can continue killing each other without their advanced weapons, Torres ordered. Overnight, human cyber warfare units had disabled every advanced weapon system on the planet, leaving the factions with nothing but primitive tools. Their choice. But if one more civilian dies because of their pride, we'll make the choice for them. This was humanity's new doctrine, aggressive peacekeeping. They didn't conquer worlds. They removed the ability to wage war. They didn't impose human government. They simply made violence too expensive to pursue. Species that had resolved conflicts through combat for millennia suddenly found themselves forced to use words instead. In the Outer Rim, where the destroyed human colonies were being rebuilt, something unprecedented occurred. The colonists who had survived the Zorvax attacks worked alongside Zorvax laborers sent as part of reparations. The insects expected slavery or death. Instead, they found humans teaching them agriculture, sharing meals, even protecting them from revenge-seeking survivors. I don't understand, Krexpawn, a young Zorvax worker, told Sarah Kim, one of the colony supervisors. My clutch father killed your mate. Why do you not seek blood? Sarah paused in her work, her eyes hard but not hateful. Because killing you won't bring him back. Because revenge is easy and worthless. Because the hardest thing a human can do is choose to build instead of destroy. Your people thought us weak because we showed mercy. You're about to learn that mercy is the greatest strength of all. But not all of humanity agreed with mercy. In the shadowed halls of Earth's military intelligence, Director Black oversaw operations that the public would never know about. Species that pretended to submit while planning treachery found their plans exposed, their leaders replaced, their weapons mysteriously failing. Humanity's public face was forgiveness. Its hidden face was ruthless pragmatism. The Scorian Confederacy is building secret weapons platforms in dark space, an analyst reported. They're using technology scavenged from our revealed designs, try to reverse engineer our dimensional shields. Black nodded. Release the sleeper virus in their manufacturing systems. Let them build their weapons. When they try to use them, they'll find every system hard-coded to target their own ships instead. And make sure the virus signature is obviously human. Let them know we knew all along. This was humanity's greatest weapon, not their technology, but their paranoia refined to an art form. Every species trying to betray the new peace found humans had already anticipated their moves, planned counters, and left obvious evidence of their preparation. The message was clear. You could try to fight us, but we've already won battles you haven't even imagined yet. On the paradise world of Elysium, something beautiful and terrible was taking shape. Human artists, freed from the need to hide their true capabilities, began creating works that left other species stunned. Sculptures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Music that spoke directly to the listener's neurons, creating personalized symphonies. Stories that adapted to the reader's psychology, becoming the perfect narrative for each individual. This is what you hid from us. The aesthetic collective, a species devoted entirely to art, wept openly at a human exhibition. This beauty, this creativity, you kept it locked away. The human artist, an elderly woman named Chun Lu, smiled sadly. We hid it because beauty without power is just another thing to be stolen. Now that you know we can destroy you, perhaps you can appreciate what else we can create. But the true shock came when humanity revealed its plans for the future. Not conquest, not domination, but elevation. Earth scientists began sharing technology freely, not weapons, but tools for growth. Medical knowledge that could extend lifespans. Agricultural techniques that could end hunger. Educational methods that could unlock the potential in any sentient mind. Why? The question came from every species. Why share this now? Why help those who would have destroyed you? General Park answered that question before the Reform Council. Because hatred is easy. Because revenge is simple. Because destruction takes no imagination. Any fool can burn down a house. It takes wisdom to build one. Any child can hate their enemy. It takes strength to transform them into friends. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity spent 50 years preparing for war because we had to. Now we'll spend the next 1,000 years preparing for peace. But understand this, we remain ready. Push us, and we'll push back harder. Threaten us, and we'll end you. But work with us, grow with us, dream with us, and we'll show you wonders you can't imagine. The transformation wasn't instant. Trust broken over millennia couldn't be rebuilt overnight. Some species retreated to their home systems, fearful of human expansion. Others tried subtle resistance, only to find humans had anticipated every move. But slowly, carefully, something new began to emerge. Trade routes became safe for the first time in recorded history. Border disputes were settled with words instead of weapons. Resources were shared based on need rather than hoarded for power. The galaxy's economy, freed from the constant drain of warfare, began to boom. Species that had stagnated for eons suddenly found themselves advancing. On a small agri-world in the Perseus Arm, human and Saurian children played together in fields that had been battlegrounds just months before. Their parents watched nervously, old hatreds still simmering. But the children didn't care about scales or skin, about history or hatred. They just want to play. Perhaps, the Saurian parents said slowly, perhaps your species was right. Perhaps strength is not in the weapon, but in the choice not to use it. The human parent, a veteran who had lost friends to Saurian raids, nodded carefully. We have a saying on Earth. The strongest warrior is the one who wins without fighting. We prepared for war so thoroughly that we don't have to wage it. But even as peace took root, humanity remained vigilant. Secret fleets patrolled dimensions others couldn't see. Monitoring stations tracked every ship, every transmission, every heartbeat if necessary. The weapons that had shocked the galaxy were just the ones humanity chose to reveal. Worse things waited in hidden vaults, praying they would never be needed. Ambassador Chun, now Secretary General of the Reform Council, often stood at her office window, watching ships from 100 species dock at the station. They came in peace now, genuine peace backed by mutual respect rather than fear. But she never forgot the lesson humanity had learned in blood. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice backed by strength. Ma'am, her aide interrupted her thoughts. The Zorvax delegation is here for the War Crimes Tribunal. They're ready to present evidence against their own former leaders. Chen nodded. This too was part of humanity's plan, not just to defeat enemies, but to help them become better. The Zorvax would judge their own criminals, face their own darkness, and choose their own path forward. Humanity would guide, not rule. Protect, not control. The galaxy had learned that humans were dangerous when threatened. Now, they were learning something far more profound. Humans were even more dangerous when they chose to help. Because human help came with human efficiency, human imagination, and human determination to solve problems permanently. The holding back was over. But what came next wasn't human domination. It was human cultivation of a galaxy that could be so much more than it was. A galaxy where strength protected the weak instead of preying on them. Where differences were celebrated rather than feared. where the ancient cycle of predator and prey could finally maybe be broken. It would take generations. There would be setbacks, betrayals, and failures. Some species would never accept the new order. But humanity had patience born from surviving their own worst impulses. They had turned their homeworld from a battlefield into a paradise. Now they would do the same for the galaxy, one world at a time. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, no longer hidden by the smoke of burning worlds. And in that light, impossible as it seemed, hope began to grow. 1 year after humanity's revelation shook the galaxy to its core, the transformation was remarkable yet incomplete. In the frontier systems, Captain Maria Rodriguez commanded the UES Guardian, a ship that embodied humanity's new role, half warship, half hospital, all protector. Her mission today would test everything humanity claimed to stand for. Captain, we're receiving distress signals from the Kellner system, her communications officer reported. It's bad, ma'am. The Devourers are there. The bridge fell silent. The Devourers were the galaxy's nightmare made real, a species that consumed entire biospheres, leaving dead worlds in their wake. Even the old Galactic Council had failed to stop them, declaring any system they entered as lost. No one fought the Devourers. You just ran. Set course for Kellner system, Rodriguez ordered. Maximum dimensional jump. And wake up the Nightmare Squad. Her crew exchanged glances. The Nightmare Squad was humanity's answer to threats that conventional weapons couldn't handle. Soldiers enhanced with technology that blurred the line between human and weapon. They were Earth's monsters, created to fight worse monsters. Captain, her first officer said quietly, the Devourers have never been stopped, even with our technology. Then, we'll be the first, Rodriguez cut him off. Humanity doesn't abandon people. Not anymore. In the Kellner system, the situation was worse than reported. 3 inhabited worlds were under attack, billions of lives at stake. The Devourers' bioships, each the size of a moon, were systematically stripping the planets of all organic matter. Local defense fleets fired desperately, their weapons barely scratching the living hulls that adapted to each attack. Rodriguez studied the tactical display with cold precision. Deploy the Nightmare Squad to their command ship. Launch quantum torpedoes at the feeding tendrils. And prepare the Genesis device. The Genesis device? Her weapons officer paled. Captain, that's classified beyond classified. We're not supposed to even acknowledge it exists. It exists for exactly this situation, Rodriguez replied. A weapon so terrible, it can only be used to save lives. Ironic, isn't it? The Nightmare Squad launched in pods that phase-shifted through normal space, appearing inside the largest bioship. What happened next was broadcast across the galaxy, a deliberate choice by humanity. The galaxy needed to see what humans were capable of when truly pushed. 20 humans in armor that seemed alive faced millions of Devourers in their own ship. The squad didn't just fight, they became living weapons. Their armor adapted faster than their enemies, growing blades, projectiles, and worse things. They moved through the bioship like a virus, corrupting its systems, turning its own biology against it. Sergeant John Matthews, leading the squad, found himself facing the Devourer Overmind, a creature of pure hunger given malevolent intelligence. It spoke directly into his mind, a sensation like drowning in acid. You cannot stop hunger itself, it said. We are the universe's appetite. We are inevitable. Matthews grinned inside his helmet. Funny thing about humans, we got a bigger appetite. We eat inevitability for breakfast. He activated his armor's final protocol. His body began converting at the molecular level, becoming something that wasn't quite human anymore. The other squad members did the same. They became humanity's hunger, not for food, but for survival, for protection, for the right of others to exist. They became an anti-devourer, consuming the consumers. The bioship began dying from the inside as the squad spread through it like antibodies. But this was just a distraction. Outside, Rodriguez prepared humanity's true response. All Kellner Defense Forces, this is Earth Ship Guardian, she broadcast. Clear the area around Planet 3. Clear it now. The Genesis device launched. Not a weapon in any conventional sense, but something far stranger. It hit the planet's atmosphere and began rewriting reality at the quantum level. Where the Devourers had stripped life, the device created it. Not just restored, created from nothing, violating every known law of conservation. Life exploded across the dead world. Forests grew in seconds. Oceans filled with creatures that had never evolved, but suddenly existed. The Devourers, feeding tendrils, designed to consume, found themselves overwhelmed by life that generated faster than they could eat. They tried to adapt, but how do you adapt to something that ignores the fundamental rules of reality? The bioships began retreating, but humanity wasn't done. Other human vessels arrived, each carrying weapons designed for this specific threat. Viral bombs that turned the Devourers' hunger against them, making them consume themselves. Dimensional locks that trapped them between realities. Temporal loops that forced them to experience their own destruction infinitely. This is General Park to all Devourer entities. The broadcast reached across dimensions. You have two choices. Leave this galaxy forever, or be removed from existence. Not killed, erased. We will delete you from reality so thoroughly that you will never have existed. Choose. The Devourers, for the first time in their billion-year existence, knew fear. They had encountered species that fought them, species that ran from them, but never a species that could simply decide they shouldn't exist and make it true. They fled, not just from the Kellner system, but from the galaxy entirely, seeking other feeding grounds far from human space. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The unstoppable Devourers had been stopped. The impossible had been made possible. And humanity had done it not for conquest or glory, but simply because people needed help. But the true shock came after the battle. The Nightmare Squad, their mission complete, faced a choice. Their transformation was irreversible. They were no longer fully human, changed at the fundamental level into living weapons. Earth's military protocol was clear. They were too dangerous to live. Captain Rodriguez met them in the Guardian's hangar as they returned. 20 humans who had sacrificed their humanity to save billions. She looked at each of them, seeing the alien geometries that now composed their forms, the hunger for battle that would never fade. Earth Command has transmitted termination orders, she said quietly. You're to be eliminated as an unacceptable risk. Sergeant Matthews, his form shifting between states of matter, laughed. Figures. Save the galaxy, get a bullet for your trouble. That's human bureaucracy for you. Rodriguez smiled. I said they transmitted orders. I didn't say I received them. Funny thing about dimensional interference. Messages get lost sometimes. She turned to her crew. The Nightmare Squad died heroes in the Kellner system. That's what the official records will show. These 20 beings who happen to look nothing like humans, they're refugees we rescued. Set them up in Cargo Bay 7. Full amenities. The squad stared at her. Captain, disobeying direct orders. Is very human, Rodriguez finished. You gave up your bodies for others. I won't let Earth take your lives too. You'll stay with us, help us, remind us what sacrifice really means. Because that's what humanity needs to remember. We're not just warriors. We're protectors, even of our own monsters. This act of defiance rippled across human space. Other enhanced soldiers, other living weapons created in desperation, found protection instead of termination. Humanity began to confront its own darkness. The prices paid for survival. The lines crossed in the name of protection. On Earth, the debate raged in the halls of power. Some demanded strict adherence to protocols, the elimination of anything too dangerous to control. Others argued for compassion, for redemption, for the belief that humanity meant more than human biology. Director Black watched the debates with interest. From her shadow organization, she made certain decisions. Those who would terminate heroes found their orders mysteriously delayed, their weapons unexpectedly malfunctioning. Those who showed mercy found unexpected support, resources appearing from classified budgets. Ma'am, The Senate is moving to court-martial Captain Rodriguez, an aide reported. Black smiled. How unfortunate that Captain Rodriguez's service records were corrupted by a computer virus. It might take years to reconstruct them for a proper trial. By then, who knows? Public opinion has a way of shifting. The Kellner incident became a turning point. Species across the galaxy realized that humanity's power came not from their weapons, but from their willingness to use them for others. The Devourers, the unstoppable force that had terrorized the galaxy for eons, had fled from humans who fought not for themselves, but for strangers. Volunteers began arriving at human colonies, aliens willing to learn, to train, to become protectors themselves. Humanity's military academies, once hidden, opened their doors to selected candidates from other species. The knowledge shared was carefully controlled, but the message was clear. Strength could be taught, courage could be learned, protection could be shared. In the Kellner system, now thriving with impossible life, monuments rose to the Nightmare Squad. Not monuments to the dead, but to the transformed. Children of a dozen species played in parks named after human monsters who chose to remain monsters so others could remain children. The Zorvax, in particular, embraced this new path. Their warrior culture, once devoted to conquest, found new purpose in protection. Zorvax soldiers trained alongside humans, learning that true strength was measured not in victims but in lives saved. We were wrong about weakness, Krek Spawn, now a captain in the reformed Zorvax fleet, told his human training officer. We thought mercy was weakness, but mercy requires strength we never imagined. To have the power to destroy and choose not to, this is the warrior's greatest victory. But not everyone embraced the change. In the dark spaces between stars, the old powers gathered. Species that had ruled through fear saw their influence crumbling. The crime syndicates that had thrived on chaos found order imposing on their profits. They began to plot, to plan, to prepare for war against humanity's peace. They didn't understand that humanity had prepared for this too. Every conspiracy was infiltrated. Every secret meeting was recorded. Every weapon cached was cataloged. Humanity's paranoia, refined over generations, had anticipated betrayal before the betrayers had even decided to betray. Let them plot, General Park told the Reform Council. Let them scheme and plan and dream of our destruction. They'll find that we've already won battles they haven't imagined fighting. We don't just prepare for war. We prepare for the preparation for war. The galaxy was changing, not through conquest, but through example. Not through force, but through choice. Species that had never known peace began to taste it. Civilizations that had stagnated in fear began to grow. The ancient cycle of predator and prey, of strong and weak, of conqueror and conquered, slowly gave way to something new. Protector and protected. Teacher and student. Guardian and guarded. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of when pushed too far. Now, they were showing something far more powerful, what they were capable of when they chose to pull others up instead of pushing them down. The stars no longer hid threats in their shadows. Instead, they hid guardians, watchers, protectors who had learned that the greatest strength was the strength to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The galaxy would never be perfect. There would always be predators, always be those who chose darkness. But now, for the first time in galactic history, the darkness had something to fear. Not just human weapons or human warriors, but human compassion backed by human determination. The most dangerous species in the galaxy had chosen to be dangerous to danger itself. And in that choice, the galaxy found hope. 5 years had passed since humanity dropped its mask and showed the galaxy its true face. The Milky Way had transformed beyond recognition. Where once ancient empires ruled through fear, now a confederation of protectors maintained peace through strength. But on this anniversary, humanity would face its greatest test, not from external enemies, but from within. Admiral Sarah Constantine stood before the Galactic Assembly, representatives of every known species watching her with a mixture of respect and lingering fear. The announcement she was about to make would shake the foundations of everything they had built. 5 years ago, humanity revealed weapons that shocked you all, she began. Today, we reveal something far more dangerous. We're dismantling them. All of them. The chamber erupted. The Saurian delegate rose, scales flashing in distress. Have humans gone mad? Those weapons keep the peace. Without them, the old ways will return. Constantine raised her hand for silence. No, we're not abandoning our strength. We're transforming it. Every weapon we destroy will birth something greater. Our planet killer bombs will become terraforming devices. Our bioweapons will become universal vaccines. Our dimensional weapons will open doorways for trade and travel. We choose to build rather than threaten. The Zorvax ambassador, old Krex himself, now bearing scars from defending human colonies, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. But what of those who would see this as weakness? What are the enemies in dark space, waiting for such an opportunity? Then they will learn the final lesson, Constantine replied, that humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology. It was our choice to be better than our enemies thought possible. And that choice has spread. She gestured to the assembly. Look around you. Zorvax warriors who once gloried in conquest now glory in protection. Saurian scientists who perfected killing now perfect healing. Etherians who manipulated time for dominance now use it to preserve beauty. We didn't conquer you. We inspired you. And an inspired galaxy doesn't need doomsday weapons. In the hidden depths of dark space, the shadows watched. They were the galaxy's secret, species too twisted, too corrupted, too hostile to join civilized space. For millennia, they had waited, feeding on the conflicts of others, growing strong on spilled blood and shattered worlds. The old Galactic Council had kept them at bay through appeasement, feeding them border worlds and hoping they stayed satisfied. The humans grow soft, their prime darkness whispered across dimensions. They lower their guard. They trust. They hope. Now is our time. The Shadow Fleet began to move. Billions of ships that existed partially in nightmare, crewed by things that had forgotten they were once people. They had waded through humanity's show of force, biding their time, learning, preparing. Now, with Earth dismantling its weapons, they struck. The first attack came at Haven, a colony where human and alien orphans grew up together. The defenders had minutes of warning before reality itself began to tear. Shadow ships emerged from wounds in space-time, disgorging horrors that killed with a touch and fed on fear itself. Captain Maria Rodriguez, stationed at Haven with the Guardian, watched her worst nightmare unfold. All ships. Haven is under shadow attack. Repeat, the shadows have come. But something unprecedented happened. Before human reinforcements could arrive, Zorvax hive ships emerged from jump space, weapons blazing. Saurian battlecruisers followed, then Etherian thought forms, mechanoid logic fleets, even species humanity had fought just years before. They came not because Earth commanded, but because they chose to. This is Krex Prime, the Zorvax Battlemaster announced. Human children nest in Haven. We protect all nests now. It is the way. The battle was brutal. The shadows had expected to face diminished human forces. Instead, they faced a united galaxy fighting with human tactics, human determination, and their own unique strengths. Zorvax warriors phase-shifted like humans had taught them. Saurians deployed bioweapons redesigned for protection, creating safe zones where shadow corruption couldn't spread. Etherians wove temporal shields, protecting evacuation ships carrying children of a dozen species. On Earth, emergency sessions convened. Some demanded the immediate rearmament, the resurrection of doomsday weapons. But President Chun, descendant of the ambassador who had first warned the galaxy, stood firm. No, she said simply. If we return to the old ways, we prove the shadows right. We prove that peace only comes from fear. Instead, we show them what happens when a galaxy truly unites. She turned to the military command. Activate Project Unity. It's time to show the shadows what we've been building instead of weapons. Across human space, installations revealed their new purpose. The facilities that once built planet killers now launch something else entirely. Seeds. Not weapons, but possibilities. Each seed ship carried the combined knowledge of every allied species. Medical techniques that could cure shadow corruption. Technologies that could heal the wounds in space-time. Most importantly, they carried volunteers from every species working together. The shadows had expected fear. They fed on it, grew strong from it. Instead, they found determination. When they corrupted a world's atmosphere, human Saurian teams deployed atmosphere processors that cleaned faster than pollution could spread. When they infected populations with madness, Ethereum mechanoid healing protocols restored sanity. When they tore holes in reality, mixed crews sealed them with technologies born from cooperation rather than conquest. But it was in the Shadow's home dimension that the real battle was won. The Nightmare Squad, those humans transformed into living weapons, led a volunteer force into the heart of darkness itself. They didn't go to destroy, but to understand. Sergeant Matthews, his form now stable in its alien configuration, stood before the Shadow Prime. "We know what you are," he said quietly. "You're not monsters. You're victims. Species so traumatized by ancient wars that you became trauma itself. But trauma can be healed." The Shadow Prime recoiled. "We are fear. We are hatred. We are the galaxy's nightmares given form." "Were," Matthews corrected. "But even nightmares can end. Even shadows can find light. We know because we almost became you." Humanity stood at that crossroads, where pain could become purpose or poison. We chose purpose. You can too. What followed was not a battle, but an intervention. Human psychologists worked alongside Etherian mind healers. Zorvak's warriors stood guard not to fight, but to protect the vulnerable as they healed. Saurian bioengineers began reversing millennia of self-inflicted corruption. The shadows, for the first time since their fall, encountered something stronger than their pain: hope. Not all could be saved. Some shadows were too far gone, too deeply consumed by their own darkness. But many, surprisingly many, began to remember what they had been before the pain. Species thought extinct emerged from shadow forms. Civilizations written off as casualties of ancient wars revealed themselves as survivors who had survived wrong. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity's true plan revealed itself. They hadn't dismantled their weapons from weakness or naivety. They had done it to force exactly this response, to prove that the galaxy no longer needed ultimate weapons because it had become the ultimate weapon. Unity, cooperation, the choice to heal rather than harm. On Haven, where the first attack had come, children played in parks rebuilt from rubble. Human and Zorvak's young chased each other while Saurian and Etherian parents watched. A small shadow child, one of the first born free from corruption, laughed as it learned to exist in normal space-time. "They said humans were the monsters," the child said to Captain Rodriguez during a visit. "But you made the monsters into people." Rodriguez smiled, tears in her eyes. "No, little one. We just reminded them they were people all along. That's what humans do. We remember that everyone is people, even when they forget it themselves." The transformation wasn't complete. It never could be. There would always be those who chose darkness, always be threats in the void. But the galaxy had learned that darkness wasn't defeated by deeper darkness. It was defeated by light, and light was strongest when it came from many sources. Earth's weapons of mass destruction were gone, melted down, and remade into tools of mass construction. The technology that could crack planets now helped build them. The viruses designed to kill now immunized against disease. The dimensional weapons that could exile enemies now opened doorways for friends. But humanity kept one weapon hidden and ultimate, not a device or a technology, but an idea of virus more powerful than any bioweapon. The idea that everyone, regardless of species or history, could choose to be better. That strength could protect instead of prey. that the most powerful thing in the universe was the decision to help rather than harm. 5 years after humanity had warned the galaxy they were holding back, they had transformed it entirely. Not through conquest, but through example. Not through weapons, but through choices. The galaxy had learned that humans were dangerous not because of what they could destroy, but because of what they could inspire others to build. In the reformed Galactic Council, now including former shadow species, Ambassador Chin's descendant spoke the words that would define the new age. We warned you we were holding back. We were. We were holding back our hope, our trust, our faith in what the galaxy could become. Now we hold nothing back. Now we build tomorrow together. The stars shone brighter that night, or perhaps it only seemed that way. The darkness between them no longer hid threats, but possibilities. The galaxy had learned humanity's greatest secret, that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't hate or fear or strength or technology. It was choice. The choice to be better. The choice to build rather than break. The choice to heal rather than harm. The choice to unite rather than divide. And in that choice, the galaxy found not just peace, but purpose. Not just survival, but growth. Not just existence, but meaning. The holding back was over. The building up had begun. And in every corner of the galaxy, species that had once known only conflict now knew something infinitely more powerful. They knew hope.